What is judo? What is judo? We think about these beautiful tournaments and big throws and so on and so forth, but judo is more than that. Okay, so let's kind of break it down. So first, obviously, there's a physical component to judo, right? Physical. Physical. What do I mean by that? The physical education, we could talk about weight training, strength and conditioning, cardiovascular components of judo, the doing of the throws themselves, the ability to hit taitoshi, ippon seoinage, whatever, right? There is a physical component, as well as in shiai or competition, the ability to win in a competition, defeat our opponents. Arguably, it's the thing we focus on the most, right? But here's the thing, judo is more than that, right? We also have the academic side. Okay, the academic side of judo. Talking about naming the throws, right? What do the throws mean? Things of that nature, right? The educational component of judo, that's another point of it as well. You do a test on the throws, like, hey, what does taitoshi mean? Oh, body drop, right? What is Jigoro Kano's favorite throw? Ukigoshi, that kind of stuff, right? Who are some of the Olympians? Things of that nature. The academic side of judo, counting, so on and so forth. Well, there's also a third component of judo, right? Okay, there's the philosophy, the philosophical side of judo, right? Okay, we're talking about the culture, the bowing, the respect, the mutual welfare and benefit, all that kind of stuff. That's the philosophical side of judo. That makes judo stand out a little bit. That ability to, bring some of that cultural awareness and the things that we love about judo. Philosophy, academic, physical, right? We hyper-emphasize this physical component of judo, of the, oh, hey, I can beat you. But the reality is, okay, it's these three things together. This is judo. Okay? Where the three meet is judo. Some of us are going to be better at the physical, okay? Some of these guys are the Travis Stevens or the Onos or whatever of the world that are just dogging people on the mat. They're physical phenomenons. They have beautiful judo. They win. They only need 6 good throws and they're just going to crush everybody in the room, right? And that is a justification for a black belt, right? There's the academic side. There's those that really understand they can do all 67 throws and they can teach you how they work and they understand kazushi and they can whiteboard like this and teach a class and their instructors and so on and so forth. There's an academic component to judo as well, right? And then there's the philosophy, where we're teaching kids and adults how to be respectful and to be good partners and how to bow and how judo benefits everybody and things of that nature. There's this philosophical component. And that's what makes judo beautiful and unique. It's the balance of these three things. Again, it's a balance. You need all three. If you just want to fight, if you just want to be like, hey, I can beat everybody in the room and that's all that matters, do wrestling, do sambo. You could do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. There's MMA. There's plenty of combat sports where this is the primary objective, is defeating somebody on the mat. My opinion, and I think the majority of people agree with me, and the International Judo Federation is actually getting ready to put out like a standard for judo ranks. And I'm curious to see how that pops out. But this, although we focus on the physical component a lot, this is not the standard for judo. The ability to beat somebody on the mat is not the standard for judo. If I have a wonderful wrestling double leg takedown or Marote Gari in judo, and I can beat everybody in the room with it, great, man. I'm not knocking you for being able to do that. But that by itself doesn't make you a black belt, okay? I mean, maybe to an extent, if you're truly the best in the world and can beat everybody, yeah, maybe you're a Shodan per se. But that's the beginning, as Jigoro Kano says. Shodan is the beginning of learning. It's not the end all be all. That's just the thing, right? Same thing with the academic, right? It's like, hey, there are a lot of people that will argue about names of throws and, how something's applied or whatever. And they want to hyper-emphasize the academic component of judo. And be like, well, if you don't know the first 10 black belts, you're not a judoka. No, that's not how that works. Like, you can't hyper-emphasize one of the three. Just because someone doesn't know the first 5 Olympians or the first woman, whoever, won worlds or whatever, that doesn't make you not a black belt. That's something you can learn and develop, to become a higher level black belt, sure, but that by itself doesn't make you a black belt. And philosophy. Look, man, I mean, if you walk in as a white belt and you bow and you're courteous and you understand being a good partner and all that kind of stuff, that's great. That makes you a good human being, but that by itself doesn't make you a judoka, okay? Or at least being a yudansha or a black belt. That by itself doesn't make you a black belt. It's a characteristic you need to have to be a black belt, but by itself, it doesn't make you a black belt. You need a balance of all three. And look, some of us will lean one way or the other. Some of us are going to be better at the physical than the academic or the philosophical components of judo. Some of us are going to be better academics. Some of us will really lean into the philosophy of it and write books and papers and talk about how, the mutual benefit and so on and so forth, like really helps society and how we should have in the school systems and all this stuff. And I'm not knocking any of that. But none of these by themselves make you a judoka. You have to have a balance of the three. For me, I can do all the throws of judo and talk about how they work. I'm a pretty good academic. I'm not the best fighter in the world, okay? There are plenty of people that could beat the snot out of me on the mats. There's plenty of people I could beat as well. Arguably, an untrained person, I'm going to beat. Arguably, a trained person to a degree, I'm going to beat, right? But we have things like age and fitness and injuries and so on and so forth, right? That might reduce our physical capability. Sure, you could argue there is some old guy, some BJJ, black belt that, who's a coral belt that could beat everybody. Cool, man. That's jiu-jitsu, right? That's not judo. Judo is not defined by your ability to beat everybody on the mat. Same thing with philosophical. You got a whole bunch of keyboard warriors that are going to talk about like, oh, they weren't respectful and so on and so forth. Like, hey, there's a range of acceptability on all three. All these three things have a range, right? There's a realm of philosophy. There's a middle ground that everyone's like, okay, yeah, there's a certain level of respect and mutual benefit and so on and so forth that we should have. Academic, there's a certain standard of academic knowledge. Like, hey, man, if I'm an instructor and someone's like, can you teach me Yoko Guruma? Well, yeah, I should be able to teach you Yoko Guruma. I'm not saying that's going to be your number one competitive throw, and because it's Yoko Guruma is not my number one competitive throw, right? But I should be able to teach it as a baseline standard. And same thing with physical capability. If I can't beat anybody ever in judo, that's probably not a good thing, right? I should have a certain baseline level of physical capability on the mat. But yeah, once I teach some of these guys to get, their brown belt, their black belts, whatever, I would hope some of them can beat me. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to have students that can beat me. It's a good thing if people from other gyms can beat me. That's why we have a competitive circuit, right? That's part of the Shiai is part of the philosophical development of having to respect one another on and off the mat and our competitive prowess and so on and so forth. Being able to beat you doesn't make me a better person than you or, a better judoka than you per se. Like, nah, man, that just means you're really good at applying this thing. And sure, that highlights a core component, yeah, but this by itself isn't the end all be all. Same thing with this. We need all three. And that's what keeps judo alive. That's what keeps judo as a beneficial thing to society, right? Leading into the philosophical context right here is like, hey, we need people that are good people, all right? That have a certain level of academic competence, that have a certain level of physical capability to teach this thing that is judo. If you want to hyperfixate in any of the three, okay, like maybe if you want to lean on philosophy or something, okay, go do like Tai Chi, right? That's still a martial art, technically speaking, but, I'm not using Tai Chi to really go beat up a whole bunch of people in MMA. Watch MMA and you'll see almost no one has a Tai Chi background, right, as their primary fighting art. Same thing with the academic, like, karate has a pretty good, syllabus and talks a lot about the technical things and how the strikes are named and so on and so forth. Like, I'd say karate is a pretty good example of an academic standpoint for martial arts, right? Like, you might want to lean on that, right? If you're not worried about the other two, right? Physical, if you just want to beat people, there's tons of stuff. Do wrestling, do sambo, do combat jiu-jitsu, not the stop boxing, but the actual like punching people in the face combat jiu-jitsu, right? That's a great way for physical prowess. MMA, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, those things that kind of rank you higher on your physical capability and not necessarily your balance of the three, right? But even in those, there's a certain level of academic and philosophical implication, right? Like, if you're a complete jerk at a sambo match, you might never be able to compete in sambo again. You still have to be respectful. There's a certain level of respect we need, right? There's a baseline. Same thing with academic, right? Hey, like, I'm probably going to know what a double leg is. I'm probably going to know what a shoulder throw is, so on and so forth, right? At a baseline level, even in wrestling, like, okay, I know what a fireman's is, right? Like, you have a certain level of understanding of the thing that you're participating in. You know, the rules and a little bit of the history and so on and so forth, right? But again, these three things in unison are what make judo. It's not any one thing by itself. You have to have all three to make you a judoka. Hopefully that makes sense. Remember, mutual warfare and benefit, jidokoi, like, we need to stop attacking each other so hard in the judo community or martial arts community in general. Like, if you want to focus on these three, claim something else. But for judo, have all three. Let's help build grassroots judo, and let's help build kids and adults to understand the academic side of judo, the physical benefits of judo, and the philosophy. One team, one fight.